You got your love by the throat. You hold too hard, won't let go.
This is Performance Anxiety on the Pantheon Podcast Network, and I'm your host, Mark. And today's guest is a blast from my past. Please welcome the multi-talented Esther Canata. Esther and I went to school together. We weren't great friends. She was a freshman when I was a senior, and you know how that goes. But we did know each other. She was definitely the artsy one in her class. You know, every class has at least one. Well, we reconnected several years ago through social media, which is where I discovered all the different projects she's involved in. I also found out that she had moved to Croatia. That was a surprise. But before Croatia, there was acting in New York City, including a rock opera at the legendary Limelight. That's also where her music career started. She also modeled in Miami and moved out to LA to get back into acting. But music was still lurking about. Esther's done some cool projects with people like Michael Madsen and many others, and she shares some really great stories from that time. But after a bit of a dark period for her, she stepped back and refocused. That brought her to music licensing. That was exactly what she was looking for. That can also be said about her husband. After an unconventional introduction, they fell in love and started a family. But the story only gets wilder from there. They moved to Croatia, which gave Esther a reason to concentrate on her visual arts in addition to her latest musical project, LionGale. And there's a great project on the horizon as well. So check her out at LionGale on Spotify, at Esther Canata on Instagram, and Esther Canata on Facebook. Follow her for info on everything that she's doing, because she does not rest. Follow the show at Performance ANX. Merch is at performanceanx.threadless.com. Send us coffee funds at ko-fi.com/performanceanxiety. Check us out on the Gigaverse at Performance Anxiety Podcast. We'll be doing some live streams from there soon. Now get ready for some East Coast via Croatia attitude and talent with Esther Canata on Performance Anxiety on the Pantheon Podcast Network.
Okay, so this is Esther Canata on the... What was your podcast called again? Okay, see, I just had performance anxiety. Oh my God, such a goon. Okay, let me do it again. This is Esther Canata, and you are listening to Performance Anxiety with Mark Shea. Please follow LionGale Music on Spotify and have a listen at some of my new songs. And follow me also on Esther Canata on Instagram for all things Esther Canata. Art, music, all the stuff. Hello.
Hey, Esther, how you doing?
What's up? I'm good. How are you?
Good. Wow, what's it been, 30 years?
Fucking for like decades. It's crazy, right?
Really?
Nice to see your face.
You too. Man, I think the last time was down in the lower level of Somerville High School.
Probably. Yeah. Fucking years ago. Insanity. Isn't it insane how fast time goes? It
is. I was talking to my brother and my sister the other day, and Scott was like, hey, I'm almost 50 now. I'm like, dude, I'm going to be 52.
Wow.
In June. And as soon as I said the number 52, it was like a punch in the gut.
How was it for turning 50 though? Like, because I'll be 50 next year.
You know, It was a lot easier than 40.
Yeah.
40 messed with my brain for a while, but...
I think definitely 40. I mean, being in the entertainment industry and being a woman, 30 even messed with my brain. Yeah. You know, so now I'm actually much more comfortable turning 50 because I just don't give a fuck anymore.
Yes. I felt the same way. I'm like, you know what? I got through the 40s. It's fine. I'll be fine. 50's no big deal anymore. So yeah. Now I'm like, all right, well, so 60, I'll probably care even less.
Probably. I think there's something that happens as you get older. You just you just let things, fall off the shoulder a little bit more because you've lived and you've experienced and you've endured and you know that you'll get through whatever fucking comes at you.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. So as we were saying, it's been a long time and to be completely upfront with everybody, we weren't like great friends. I mean, I was a senior when you were a freshman, so we barely knew each other.
Yeah, I think we barely knew each other. Yeah. I knew your brother more.
Yeah. You guys were the same class. So, but it's something. It's funny because you always stood out in that class to me, and not just for the red hair, but there was like an artistic emanation from you. There was something I could tell you were into the arts. I was into photography. That's what I ended up doing professionally for 15 years or so. And so I don't know if there's something about people who do artistic things for a living that they can kind of sense each other. But I kind of felt that you were into the arts. I didn't know exactly what, but I was like, that there's something different.
I was an artsy fartsy, little broad.
Yeah, yes, exactly. I did know your sister much better, so we did have classes together.
Well, that's really cool to hear.
Jessie, she was always so nice.
Oh, she's a sweetheart, my sister.
We had some great classes together. And it's one of those weird things. You don't keep in touch with a lot of people, and you look back and you're like, man, they were so nice. Why didn't we keep in touch? But, it's life. So
life just goes. I know.
But speaking of family, was art a big part of your family growing up? Because you do so many things.
Yes, I think I've been doing art. The earliest things that I can remember, it started very young in my family. My mother was a wonderful artist. I wasn't raised by her. My parents split up when I was quite young, and I was raised by my father and my stepmother. But I definitely had the genetics, mostly from her, probably, that artist soul. And my dad was very much into music, and he had such an eclectic vinyl collection, which when I was grounded, I would always steal them and make mixtapes. So that was like a huge aspect of my influence. My musical eclectic influences were stealing my dad's vinyls and making mixtapes and being locked in my room and just, going through it as a teenager and finding my own voice, so to speak. Yeah. So that was early 90s. So what kind of things were you getting into then? What music? So I'm assuming he wasn't big into the grunge era that was about to explode. Everything was so vast. I was always into the arts when I was like a kid, to kind of retreat back to your first question. I was doing church choir. I think I started learning how to sing and started doing church choir when I was maybe 5 or 6. And then that went into auditioning for like little things and church plays and things like that as far as acting. And then it kind of segued into more church choir and music stuff and handbells. I played handbells, and I was in a jazz band playing the cymbals, which I was horrible at when I was like in 6th grade. I took drumming lessons like for a hot minute. It's just always, art was always there. Like some kind of expression was always, wanting to get out. So I was trying to find my way, I suppose. And when I reached high school, I was really locked in with music and acting, and so that was like my jam, and I forgot the question. I'm sorry. What was your question?
What kind of music were you into?
The music. Yes. So yes, I was getting into my music and sort of developing really as the artist I would become, and that really happened from such an eclectic mix of influences and music. I was doing the grunge. I was Sarah McLachlan, Tori Amos, Indigo Girls was like, I couldn't stop singing Indigo Girls.
Oh, I just saw that.
Yeah, so did I. Oh gosh. And even before that, I was, Nina Simone, Joni Mitchell, Janis, punk rock stuff too. It was so vast. I was even into some hard rock because my brother was into that, and old school rock like Black Sabbath and Led Zeppelin. And so it was really, it was a lot of different music, a lot of grunge influence.
It was a weird time for music. It was a great time. But
it was the best time, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was so much going on. I mean, I loved grunge. I got huge into it, and it was just really hitting the East Coast. You know, we were all listening to, I mean, Led Zeppelin, the senior parking lot, there's Led Zeppelin going on all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Sabbath. There was the late 80s metal scene that was still hanging around. I mean, there was a little bit of everything, and it was amazing. There's
such a mix of musical tastes, to choose from.
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. It was funny because I don't know about you, but when I would go to school, I'd have such a I might have my Walkman, so I was on the bus, nobody bothered me, and I'd have Megadeth, Black Sabbath, Hall & Oates, and then some kind of some classical tape. And so, but I always kind of felt like I had to hide the Hall & Oates so that like people wouldn't.
Because it was corny. Because it wasn't cool enough, right?
Exactly.
It was too pop.
Exactly. So,
too mainstream for a metalhead.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the things that I think is great now. My kids listen to everything, and they don't feel the need to hide it. So
that's great. So it's so cool.
So you're into music and you're into acting. Which one is pulling you first into more professional gigs? Is it music or acting?
Are you talking about when I was younger?
Yeah.
Sort of in general.
Yeah, let me ask it this way, I guess. What was the first avenue you went professionally? Was it a music avenue or was it more of an acting?
It was more acting, yeah, but it was mixing because I went to Votech, the gifted and talented program there for acting where you had to audition to get in. And so I did that for 3 years. So I did like the 3 or 4 hours in the morning and then come back and do the, required courses that we had in high school at Somerville, at the Ville. Yeah. And the good old Ville.
In a while.
Yes. Yeah, I was really into musical theater also. So, but I was never good enough to do like Broadway. But I of course wanted to do Broadway but I didn't have that Broadway voice. I had more of an artist voice. So I remember I had this wonderful musical theater teacher named Vince Tamura at Votech. And he stopped the class. We had our musical theater class. And he says, you know what, Esther? He's like, I want you to go home and learn the song Satellites by Ricky Lee Jones. And that was a very pivotal moment for me where I realized, okay, maybe I'm not a Broadway gal, like all that shit. Maybe I have my own thing. And that's what he's trying to kind of, lift out of me. That's, maybe different. And that's got to be okay. And I think that's where I started to really recognize, that I had sort of my own thing and my own sound. And I kind of started doing writing and writing poetry and, making up little songs when I would walk my dog. So I realized that I had some gift of melody, sort of grasping from the air, a stream of conscious kind of flow. And that sort of escalated into moving to New York to pursue acting and, stage work, maybe Broadway. If I started really working my voice when I was in New York with a wonderful voice coach named Don Lawrence, who works with Bono and fucking everybody. He was such a gift in my life. He gave me so much vocal confidence. I still work with his tapes, which I've turned into like voice memos. Nice. He's amazing. He works with everybody. I mean, I could name drop, but it's just ridiculous. And then I was in New York City and I was doing a lot of really bad stage work in rock operas and,
I saw that. So you actually were performing at the Limelight.
I did. Yeah.
That's
and that was actually a really great show. It was by Mark Weiser, The Cure, and it was all about vampires. And we were able to, get and do, a staged reading, type of performance there. And it was awesome.
That place is legendary.
I know. I used to actually bartend there too.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I used to sneak out when we were kids, and go there, like I think my senior year. And then I ended up moving to New York and ended up getting a job there and learning how to bartend there. I was asked by somebody, I was working at the coffee shop in Union Square. And this guy said to me, he's like, hey, do you want to learn how to bartend? And I said, yeah, why not? Make some money. And that was the beginning of a whole other era where I got into house music and I started learning to use my voice in that way because I was working in the clubs. Yeah. Okay.
So was that how you started your musical career? Was that the direction it started?
I think that was, when I was working with Don Lawrence, I recognized that I had that thing, that was my own thing. Mm-hmm. And he was trying to kind of nurture that out of me. And so I with the rock operas and the stage stuff and the acting stuff, I really started to get, I guess, noticed by some people. So I started working with producers, specifically one guy, I can't remember his name, it's horrible. Anyway, there was one gentleman that said, hey, I love your voice, I love your style. Do you want to maybe write some songs? So I started my first take with my own writing. And then I was working with a wonderful producer named Jimmy Harry. And I wrote two of my first real songs with him. And that's when he offered me a production deal. And then I met some other people through BMG Music in Stockholm, and they offered me a publishing deal. So I went out to BMG in Stockholm. I was there for about 5 months, and I did a writing trip, and I wrote, I think, my first really good songs for, growing into that kind of singer-songwriter, and finding my sound, as they call it. Yeah. So I think that was the first real pro thing that I did, and it just kind of established me as a singer-songwriter.
So this whole time period, are you kind of going back and forth between music and acting? Are you doing both at the same time?
Yeah, I was really doing the music thing. I kind of let acting go to the side because I'm horrible at auditioning. I get very nervous. So it just wasn't really going my way. And I hated auditioning, and I could more easily express myself and jump into songwriting without waiting for auditions. I could just create what I wanted to create. I was, hustling to get the auditions and get in the rooms and then screw them up, and feel shit about myself afterwards. So I really just put myself into where I felt most proactive and where I could release all the stuff inside of me and not on somebody else's watch, so to speak.
That makes sense. Now, you've done some pretty cool stuff. I did see, you've worked with Michael Madsen, Drea DiMatteo, Peter Dinklage. Was that all after, or I guess before you decided to go with?
Yeah, well, I've been doing this for such a long time that definitely it comes in waves. It's sort of like this, to just be clear. Music and acting, the arts in general, performing arts, I could never walk away from them completely. As now I'm ventured more into visual arts, I still perform. It's a fire in me that won't ever die. I'll never. So that sort of, wherever the opportunities would arise, I would show up for them. And I love acting. I love film acting. I love stage acting. I love Shakespeare. So it's all such a timeline for me that I would sort of flip and flop on, dependent on where I was in the world and what opportunities arose. So kind of, be prepared and then show up for the opportunities, as the Girl Scout, be prepared.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So I got myself prepared and studied and trained and worked my instrument, so to speak, as an artist, performing artist, and as a singer-songwriter. And, opportunities would arise because I was putting myself out there. And I guess the acting, I did some films in New York, and then I did some films when I moved to Hollywood. And I did some really bad films, by the way. They're not... independent film is, when you're first starting out, it's definitely hard to you just kind of take what you can get because you want the experience and you want to exercise your craft and you want to learn. And so, I definitely did some pretty horrible films, but I really good work within them. Yeah. So there's, right, it's all a learning curve.
Oh, yeah. You can't go into it expecting you're going to be, Scarlett Johansson
Oh,
immediately. So
it's such, I mean, it's like, it's training. I mean, every good athlete has to start by just picking up a ball.
Exactly.
and trying to see, you know, if they can get it from A to B and if they're any good, and then you grow. So that's
precisely. So did you go out west for a specific reason? Did you go out there just to see if you could make it, or was there a job out there that you went out for? What brought you there?
Well, I actually lived in Miami for about 3 years also. In between my New York and LA time, I was working with Wilhelmina down there, Wilhelmina Models Creative Division, and doing some, you know, commercial work and bookings like that. And also just living my life and working at a swanky hotel, bartending, and, you know, being young and hot and just living your life, you know. I was supposed to go down there for a job for 1 month, and then I ended up staying about 3 years. And I worked with Wilhelmina, who in New York, Wilhelmina didn't even want me. So I was like, wow, to work with Wilhelmina, and it was a gift, and, you know, a sort of smaller pond scenario. So it was really cool for that experience. But then when I was there, you know, you start to stagnate in Miami if you don't really start to get the jobs or keep the momentum. You just sort of stagnate because it's a sort of also lazy beach culture and party culture. And I was just, my time there was done. So I had been offered a production deal in LA with this company, and I just took it, and they were paying my way and everything. So I went, and I was on their contract for 6 months, and I wrote a bunch of songs. And then a funny story, which kind of landed me in Hollywood, was right when I was about to record my album with the production company. We had an investor involved and everything. It was a very exciting time. I was really excited to be an artist, a music artist. I was really finding my sound, and it had taken some time to get there. And right when the money was, I had a great manager, and right when the money was supposed to come through, the investor, he pulled out because he had to put all this gang of money towards his personal assistant, who got in some horrible drug raid, or her boyfriend was mixed up with the cartel, and the DEA came crashing through their door, and all of this shit was found in his closet against the floorboards. And it was a nightmare. And I remember, I'll never forget, because I knew the girl too, and she didn't have any clue what was going on, but she had to go to jail because she was, you know, associated, and she was living there, and she didn't know her closet. This is like something out of an effing movie. Yeah. And so I couldn't believe what was going on, because he said, I can't do this project because I have to bail her out and pay for her legal fees. I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
Wow.
It was really bad luck. So then the whole project went to shit, and I kind of got left flailing in LA, and more of a dark period for me, to be honest, because I just felt like, okay, when can I get this break? I'm hustling so hard all the time. Like, is it ever going to happen? I mean, do I just give this up? You know, I think I was 27 at the time. Like, I'm almost 30. That's fucking ancient in LA. And I just kind of, you know, took a step back, and then I got back more into the acting. And then I met a wonderful producer. A couple of years, I did a couple of films, and then I met a producer from New York who was residing in LA at the time, and he and I started working on some tracks, and I kind of got back into it. And I started working with a wonderful composer named Frederick Weidman. He's a composer of Picard and, oh gosh, so many things.
Nice.
Yeah, he's incredible. And we did a bunch of work together. And that kind of got me on the music licensing tip for TV and film. And that's kind of what, oh, this is a nice little pocket, you know, where I can create and express myself. And I don't really have to do all of the other nonsense. You know, you can just, I've never really been into being famous or being a flashy and, you know, over the top. I think I'm not great at that. You know, I just really want to create and do honest, authentic work that is taken for it being good work, and not because I'm, you know, sleeping with somebody or, right, you know, looking a certain way or having a certain size chest. You know, I mean, it's all such a fucking game.
Yeah.
And I didn't play it very well because I really ground myself in remaining grounded and authentic. So a lot of bullshit. Yeah, a lot of bullshit I've had to kind of sidestep and try not to drown in, you know?
Well, I'm glad you have, because otherwise we probably wouldn't be talking right now. We wouldn't reconnect. So
it's not an easy path. It's definitely not. But if the art is pure and it's in you, you got to feed that fire, and you know, you just don't give up if that makes your heart beat.
You're right. When it's in you, it eventually finds its way back out.
Absolutely.
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors.
I'm a firm believer in that, you know, we're given certain gifts, and the more that you push them down, they will find some way out to push, you know, to push back out. Yeah.
I agree 100%. So how does the licensing thing work? I mean, so are you creating the music and somebody else is shopping it around for you, or are you?
Yeah. So I've been very lucky to create, in this long journey of mine in this industry. I've been very lucky to maintain relationships. You know, it's so much about that. So a lot of the times, some of those relationships can be with the producer, who they'd go on to do some wonderful productions and then say, "Oh, we should put this song in it," and they'll give it to the music supervisor. So I've had a lot of who you know type of scenarios. I've never really worked with a distribution agency, you know, for sync, as they call it. But I'm open to it, and I'd like to keep consistent. So that's kind of actually where I'm at right now, and trying to find a sync agency, because I have a huge body of work, and different styles and different genres. So that's kind of I have my eye on that.
When you're doing this, are you doing this as Esther Canata? Or I did see that you've done things as Feline in Heat, which when I tried to look things up in YouTube, I found a lot of weird videos that did not contain you.
No, that was my first music release. Okay. It was under Esther Canata. But and this is funny, I was in LA, and I had worked with some wonderful producers from New York and Ireland, and it was sort of an eclectic mix of music. I just had all this music I was sitting on, and this was, God, ages ago, when, you know, not all of these music streaming sites were, you know, so on platform, as they call it, you know. So I had found this little, I don't know, maybe through Amazon, and I just kind of did it myself, and I uploaded all the songs. And kind of like was one of those moments where, like, should I send it? Okay, I'm going to do it. Should I, you know, just submit it? It shows a horrible picture and a horrible name. But that's where I was at. My cat was in heat at the time. And I was looking online for a place where I could go get her fixed. And I thought, you know, oh, this music is very saucy, you know, and sultry and, you know, sexy and has like, and I thought, well, let me feed into that. And I thought, Feline in Heat, that's kind of cool. And then I just went with it, and I put it out there, not thinking that it would go out into the airwaves. And, you know, I thought it would be sort of randomly dormant in one of these small sites, but you can find it on Spotify. It's crazy. And it's kind of, you know, it was definitely a different era of me. I was more into my sultry phase and playing that up a little bit. So I was like, fuck it, I'll do it. Feline in Heat, why not? And, you know, the work, though, the music there was, I'm really proud of. So I worked with some wonderful producers. Scully, he's based in Ireland. I went to Ireland and worked with him. We wrote 3 or 4 songs in like 2 days. And wow. Did this like wonderful, we just had this magnetism. We met through MySpace. Remember MySpace? Wow,
yeah.
Yeah. We met through MySpace. So he's like, what? I said, I'm going to be in London for, you know, some other work that I was doing. And he says, I'll send you, my management company will send you out. Let's do a writing session. And I was like, fuck yeah, let's do it. And we went, and I went there in Cork, Ireland, and it was gorgeous. And we wrote some really beautiful songs there. And so that you'll find those on there. One in particular that I love called He Walks. And the other guy that I worked with was a guy who calls himself Goldie Shack Gorillas, Dave Marriage, and Abe Haney. We wrote a couple of beautiful songs also on that. I want to give them, you know, shout outs.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're currently in Croatia. And first of all, before we get into that, I do want to say, if you look up Feline and Heat on YouTube, just don't. 'Cause you're not gonna.
It's on Spotify.
You're not gonna find it there. So I did find other interesting videos.
I'm sure you did.
I don't have cats, so I'm just like,
you don't know about it.
No, I have 2 dogs, so
it's pretty intense.
I gathered that from some of those videos.
I think the term for it is estrus. Is the biological term or scientific term. Yeah, and I even played with calling myself Estrus at one point as like a name for my, because it was a play off of Esther.
Yeah,
I was like, Estrus. It means feline and heat, and I mean, it just sounds so ridiculous as I say it to you, but it was where I was at. It was right where I was at the time.
It was a different time. It was a different Esther.
Of I don't know who I thought I was. I think I was having an identity crisis. Yeah.
Hey, everybody goes through that. So.
When you're an artist, you're 100 different fucking people. It's crazy. Yeah.
Exactly. I don't even want to tell you the names I thought of giving myself. So, so you're currently in Croatia. How did that happen? Was it love? Was it finding music? Was you fleeing nations?
I fell in love. I fell in love with a Croatian man who's also a musician. He's in a band called Omega Men. And funny story, I was at a red carpet Chinese man theater film premiere that I was invited to by Michael Madsen, because he and I were close. We were friends. And so I go to this. It was for a movie he did called Vice. And I saw the film, did the party, the whole thing, the whole stupid Hollywood shit, and and showed up. And I just was really riveted by a performance in the film by an actor named Mark Boone Jr., because I waited till the film credits to find out who he was, because I wasn't familiar with his work. So I was riveted by his performance in that film. Okay. I was like, who is this guy? So, and I ended up meeting him there at the premiere. But then I was just submitting, as an actor, as an artist, you can submit to your own castings, or to different castings or different auditions. You peruse the internet. There's a thing called Actors Access and whatnot, and you can sign up and submit yourself and do. So I was perusing the castings, the breakdowns as they call it, and I saw something that said music video. A vampire temptress for a band called Omega Men, directed by Mark Boone Jr. And I said, that's that fucking guy. I want to work with him. So, of course, I pick my, most ridiculous sultry picture that I can find, and I submit myself, and I get an email back, and hey, can you send me some more photos? So then I sent my MySpace link, because I had a whole bunch of provocative, stupid, Hollywood girl photos.
Oh yeah.
I that's what you had to do. You had to play that shit. So then I get another email back in response to sending him that link. And he says, can I call you? And I said, sure. And then he calls me and he says, and he had this gravelly voice, very sexy, alpha dog voice. And I said, whoa, who's this guy? And I thought he was from East Coast, because he had this kind of, charisma that we East Coasters have.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, I said, where are you from? And he said, I'm from Chicago, blah, 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 but I'm Croatian. And I said, oh, okay. I was like, you sound like my kind of animal. I remember I said that to him. And we just kind of got on. And he said, you're ridiculous. And, I get all these pictures from these fat chicks. And he was just really funny and silly. And I mean, a little bit offensive and crass, but I kind of like that, coming from New York and New Jersey. I mean, it's just sort of in our DNA. It's more terms of endearment,
Yep.
When hey, you're an asshole. It means I love you. Only East Coasters get it, because everybody else just thinks you're an asshole. In the world. But
kind of like when two people are assholes, it works.
It kind of works, and it really is. It's lovable assholes. Anyway, the rest is history. I guess I got the part. I showed up for the audition, and he and I had just immediate attraction, and it just turned into a torrid love affair. And then we had a couple of babies. And our first baby, our Hollywood boy, Tiger, and in Hollywood. And then we just decided we were not really happy with the way our careers were going. I was really in my mama mode. Also, I really love being a mom. And it really grounded me through some harrowing, dark times in Hollywood where I was like, okay, maybe I'm just not supposed to be here. Maybe I'm too rogue for Hollywood. Like, I just can't play the game. Yeah. So I kind of was like, I don't know. I had some audition for a TV show, and I was finally getting into like the big rooms, and it didn't go my way. And it turned into one of those scenarios of, if you come and hang out with me and wear a short skirt, kind of things. Yeah. This was before the Me Too movement. And I was told that it was between me and another actress, and it was for a big show that's on, Netflix and whatnot. And the casting directors loved me. My agent told me they loved me. And then I get that call, and they're like, hey, come and hang out, and da-da-da-da. And I was like, come on, I'm too old for this shit. Yeah. So I was pretty crushed, and they literally said to me, oh, you just want a job. You don't want to hang out with me. And I said, of course I want a fucking job. What do you think? I mean, I said, this is why I'm here. And oh my God. So it was pretty bad. It kind of broke my spirit. I've got to be honest, because I was just so at that. I had my limit, I guess. And Robert, my husband, he said, you know what, why don't we, his father had just passed away in Croatia. He was raised in Chicago, but born in Croatia, in Trogir. And his parents had retired back from Chicago to Croatia. And his dad passed away, and his mom was alone. And he said, why don't we just sell everything and go for a year and see like how that is. We can have my mom, we can sell the family land, blah, blah, blah. So I was just like, yeah, let's do it. And so then that turned into almost 8 years here, and another baby, a little Balkan baby named Lorenzo, in homage to my Italian roots. But I mean, it's been really special and difficult, but wonderful. And that's how we got here. We just stayed and making it work. And we bought a house, and we have a music studio. And so we're creating and hibernating.
Yeah. So when you moved out there, you told me that that's really when you started doing the visual arts.
Yes.
What brought that out?
Well, I had always been an artist, a visual artist, but it was much more of a private talent, I guess, and a private expression that even, when I was getting grounded when I was a kid and making those mixtapes, I was drawing on my walls and peeling down the flower wallpaper and busting out the black Sharpies and, doing some. So I was always doing crazy shit like that and creating, but it was more private, probably, so I wouldn't go insane. And I guess when I got to Croatia, I didn't know how the fuck, excuse my language, how the fuck I was going to do music or acting out here. And so I really just kind of sat with myself and did a bit of wintering, so to speak, and really soul searching, and was like, what do I really want? And kind of sat with that. And I just started doing some doodles and just pressing send and posting to Facebook, like with the hashtag a doodle a day keeps the psych ward away. Yeah. Because I was very much in culture shock when I first came out here. So it was helping me, just like it helped me when I was a kid get through difficult times. And so I just started sharing that to see what the response might be. And people started loving it. And then I started getting, hey, can you design me a tattoo? Hey, how much is that picture? I love it. And, I got some wonderful response, and I just really started going deeper into it. And that's been, 7 years of 8 years, almost 9 years, I guess, of professionally sharing that aspect of my creative animal.
Oh, it's wonderful. It's very striking work. I've been enjoying it myself because we've been kind of following each other a little bit for a few years now, and I've enjoyed your posts myself. So
Thank you.
you also are continuing music with
Yes.
LionGale. So who is it? Who else is involved in that? And how did you guys meet up and start making music?
Well, I did that project, which I love, with a wonderful producer from LA, actually. And we had started that project when I was still living there, but we just didn't ever share it or finish it. And so when I moved out here, because this is what happens a lot with artists who are constantly creating. There's so much work that you never get out there.
Yeah.
That you might just sit on, that you just feel like it's never going to be good enough. And I mean, if I can say to anybody who's a creative person, just put it out there.
Yeah.
Because for many years I would just sit on stuff and, I have this horrible imposter syndrome and think I just wasn't good enough, or nobody's going to like it, or I would care too much about what other people would think and all that dumb shit. You just got to share your heart and share your art. And so, and be who you are and because that's what's going to heal and help others be who they are. And that's very important to me through my creative process. And sort of, there's an air of humanitarian to my work, of being a humanitarian, because I know that it can help others, and sharing. And so I said, okay, in my brain, I said, let's just get this music out there. Stop sitting on it. Yeah. So then we put it together, and his name is Lionel Cohen. He's wonderful. And we released it on all the platforms. And then Robert, my husband, he's also a videographer and filmmaker and blah, 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 all the stuff, all the things. And we shot a video in Croatia and all the cool castles that were in Game of Thrones. And I just spun around and by the sea and danced around like a weirdo fairy in the castles. And we did it and released the video, and why not? So
like every girl's dream is to spin around like a weirdo fairy in a castle.
Spin around like a weirdo fairy in a castle.
Yeah. So you're fulfilling every teenage girl's dream.
Absolutely. I'm checking all the boxes. That's right.
Well, I'm enjoying the music. When was this stuff made then? If you're just releasing it recently, how long? We
did it before I left. Wow. We did some of it here. I think I fixed some vocals on it from here, and he mastered and mixed it over there. But we started that project, I think, 2015, 2016.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah.
I've been listening to it. I like Wild Ones Do.
It takes you deep to the core and holds you, won't let you go. Wild ones do. Wild ones do. Wild ones do. You gotta let them be free. You gotta let them be.
That is awesome.
Thank you.
Honestly, though, I think my favorite, I'm going to make sure I get the name right here because I'm looking at a different computer now. In Love with the Stars.
Oh, thank you. I wrote that one here.
Really?
See, we did that one here. Yeah, because that was for a movie by Amy Graham, Heather Graham's sister. And it was her first oh my God, I can't even speak. Directoring. Her directional debut.
Okay.
Excuse me. Okay, there, I said it. And it's a movie called The All-Nighter. And she had heard our Wild Ones Do from another friend. See, it's all relationships. And I said, oh, you have to hear my friend Esther's, music. And she loved it. And she wanted to use Wild Ones Do in the film. And then she said, can you write something for the end credits? And so then Lionel and I did In Love with the Stars.
I feel you when you shine on me. I feel you when you call my name. I know they can with me. A galaxy for you and share. I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you.
I do like that song too. Thank you.
That and Scissor Slip is also a one that I really like a lot.
Thank you.
I like your softer side.
Yes, I get that. I have a couple different voices in me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, some people love the crazy banshee screaming, belting, and others want me soft. Yeah. And I like both, and it's fun to play with the different vocal approaches and find the emotion and the delivery, and hopefully take the listeners on some kind of journey that's making them feel good. So,
well, I love that you can do both, because that's not something that everybody can do.
Well, I've been doing this for a long time. So I have found my different voices and found what works better or worse, or all of the above.
Do you get to play out very often?
Yeah, I have a show coming up. It's exciting because I do love to perform. I'm really horrible at promoting myself in performance videos and all that, like TikTok stuff. And I'm just not great at putting myself out there in that way. People tell me I should, but I think I'm more comfortable not.
I understand that completely.
I love to perform at festivals and different things out here in Europe. So I've done like a couple of music festivals, the Lovestock Festival, and I'm going to be involved in another festival coming up in May. It's called the Jena Festival. It's a festival celebrating women. And then on International Women's Day, I've created a night of art and music at this wonderful little spot in Split, which is the biggest city here, or one of the biggest cities in Croatia and Dalmatia, where we are in the southern area. Okay. And so we have a show. I'm celebrating 10 international artists, female artists, and then I'll be sharing the LionGale project then as well. Oh, so I get to do my thing. I put it out there. I do love to perform. So it's it's not on a grand scale. I'm not filling stadiums or anything, but I'm sharing my gifts in smaller ways, which is wonderful and feels great.
Oh yeah, and probably more impactful to the people that go.
Yeah, definitely. I get a wonderful response from people, and that's you don't do it for validation. You do it to hear the response of how it affects people and lifts them up or inspires them or empowers them. And that's a huge thing for me, is empowering and inspiring others through my creative works. It's like my whole mojo. It's my whole purpose.
Do you do a lot of art shows for your visual work?
Yeah, I do. I let me see. When's the last one? I did one a month ago. It's still up in the Academia Ghetto Club. And then I'll be showing some more art with these other female artists. I'd like to do more. We will see. It's kind of, I did an exhibit in New York City, because I go back every year to New York. I have a small apartment there, and I use it as my art studio. So I split up the time, try to do, like, if I can, like 6 months there, 6 months here, or 2 months or whatever throughout the years, and use that space to create and do like an open studio and invite people to come and select works. And then I try to do some group exhibits as well. So
that's wonderful.
I did one last year at the Blue Gallery in New York City, and had an open studio also. So I'm just, trying to get it all out there in whichever way I can. Probably could do more, but it's a delicate with kids, 2 young boys, and living abroad, and still finding my way. Yeah.
Well, I mean, honestly, it sounds like you're living just in a wonderful life. You've got a beautiful family. You're creating your art. You're living in from what I could see, it looks like an absolutely beautiful area of the world. And,
it's stunning.
And you get to come back when you want and do your art. I mean, I think that's amazing. I would love to be able to do some of what you're doing. Mostly the travel.
Yeah, I would encourage everybody to just do it. Take risks. I didn't know what I was going to find. I really jumped off that cliff. Well, yeah, I don't know how I got here. Honestly, it's all such It's a blur, really. Like, what the fuck? My life is so crazy.
Let's just go to Croatia. Sure.
Yeah, it's just it's a little bit nutty, but I guess that's I guess I've always been that way. It's just kind of really good at taking risks
Well,
and
you don't learn anything if you say no.
and trusting that the universe has plans for me.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
it's got me. So
Well,
you got to keep.
You never get new experiences if you say no.
Exactly. I mean, I think as an artist, I was always encouraged in my acting training that, you know, some of the greatest actors are the ones who have lived their lives. So they know how to tap in to these very difficult and different emotions and scenarios and imaginary circumstances. And you have to, you know, you have to fill up your arsenal. You have to take risks as an actor. And a lot of, you know, the stuff when you're doing your acting training and the real hard craft of acting is going deep and going into the dark places and going into the areas that you normally, you know, wouldn't. And there's a lot of encouragement of taking those risks accordingly and finding different voices that you can really bring other lives, you know, authentically out. So to reach others who are in need of that expression. It's all part of it. Yeah. Sort of rambling now. Forgive me. But acting is a deep craft, and it's sort of the imitating life scenario. You know, art is imitating life, life is imitating art. It's all part of that. And so it's a deep dive into the psyche, and the more experiences that you have in your arsenal, the better you can tell the stories and live truthfully in imaginary circumstances. So, as the great Stanislavski says, yes.
And I know you have other projects in the works, more in a documentary vein. Are you free to discuss any of that, or do we need to still keep that under wraps?
A little hush on that, yeah, because it's a very exciting project I'm creating, and it's about artists. Let's just keep it at that for now. And yeah, I'll have to come back on the show when it's time.
Absolutely.
Talk more about that. But it's a really exciting project. It's got me my full attention and full heart. So it's my big baby right now. It's my third child.
Well, if it's got your full attention and full heart, it's going to be amazing.
Well, thank you. I hope so.
Where can people follow you to find the music and keep an eye on what you're doing in this new project that's coming up?
You can follow me on Instagram and Facebook under Esther Canata. I have all my music sort of listed. A lot of Canata is my handle on Instagram. So follow me, come and hang out with me with, art and music. And yeah, this part, I've always been a bad promoter of myself. But yeah, follow me on Instagram. I have all of my other handles for my LionGale project as well. You can find on Instagram as well. But they're all listed in my A Lot of Canata. That's my main one. So you can see my art handle, and then you can also see my music handle, and A Lot of Canata. It's very Jersey. A lot of Canata. Yeah.
You get your Jersey fix and your Croatian fix.
Yep.
So, and all the music is on Spotify.
Yes, it's on Spotify, on Apple, on YouTube. My little videos out. Wild Ones do. Please have a little like and, make a comment.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. I would love to hear from people. Not enough people, and it's my horrible promoting of myself, horrible promotion. But not a lot of people, I think, have seen that yet. So if you haven't, go ahead and find that and have a listen and leave me a comment. Let me know what you think.
It's been awesome seeing you again after so many years.
Yeah, crazy. I love it. Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, it's been my absolute pleasure. I've been enjoying the music.
There'll be more.
Good.
There will always be more.
Good.
So keep in touch, and so we can share. Yeah.
Absolutely.
In this crazy fucking world.
Absolutely.
We cut the ties. We don't ask why. We say goodbye and we cry, and we cry, and we cry. Oh, we don't have words. We dig a hole, words only burn and slowly turn. What did you say? And we try, and we try, and we try. Forever was something and we gave it away.